known that Evelyn hated sharing events with people who didn't enjoy them as much as she did. Nothing could bring her down faster or make her feel more acutely that an hour of her life had been forlorn. Maybe it was because any time she and her mother attended a gathering in her youth, no matter how wonderful and festive it seemed, Melanie would scorch it afterwards. One time they attended a rock hounding fair in Santa Rosa. Evelyn was jubilant. She had won a raffle at the door and picked a grab bag full of polished agates, seen glorious specimens of pyrite and amethyst, and met kids whose parents obviously had something in common with her mother, people her mother could not possibly object to, people they might form bonds with and see again. But in the car going home, Melanie said bitterly, "What a circus. Those nitwits have no concept of the environment. Did you hear that idiot talking about the way they stripped that hill of every last particle? What a horror show. Nobody there had our values." "They do like collecting rocks," Evelyn said, her voice rising. "That's why we went there." "It's not what I was expecting. Never again." Evelyn let out a blood-curdling scream, enabling her mother to feel like the normal one. They never found a soul with the same values. The moral fiber of others was always weak and frayed as far as her mother was concerned. Other people were insensitive and crass. Other people crashed through the world like barbarians, lacking manners, lacking taste, lacking sensitivity, lacking any regard for Melanie Duffy. So when Paul's mood did not match hers in the car driving home, she felt a painful flutter in her chest. "What's wrong?" she asked again. His eyes darted in the dark. "How can I explain?" "We'll try," she coaxed, and though she was having trouble hiding her distress. "It's just them," he whispered. "What did they do?" "You didn't notice? Everybody knows." And she bit into her forearm so hard she almost cried out. Strife in the family she wanted to love wholly and fast was a catastrophe for Evelyn. "It's just that Justin's been trying to sabotage me since the day I was born," Paul finally managed. "How? You don't get it," he growled. "See, I knew you wouldn't." "But he's disabled. How can he help it?" She bit her arm harder, steadying her jaw. Helen Keller was a spoiled brat until Anne Sullivan came along. My brother needs an Anne Sullivan, see what I'm saying? They've let him terrorize me all my life and never stopped him. You know what I realized tonight? He'll probably sabotage the wedding. He won't plan it, but he'll erupt. He'll act out, and why not? No one blames him for anything. There are no consequences. He's free to do anything he wants. "But Paul, don't count on the worst. He couldn't sabotage the wedding. It's not possible. Everyone knows." "You want to bet?" Paul drove catatonically, a deeply wounded look in his eyes. "Bev, this thing against me, it's all he's got. So believe me, it'll happen one way or another. It's hard for me to feel like it doesn't matter." As if aware of Evelyn's resistance, he added, "I've been to counselors far and wide over this. He's got my parents catering to his every whim. He doesn't have to work or face the world. He gets their undivided attention and benefit of the doubt, and no matter what he does to me, I'm always the one in the wrong. I know it sounds paranoid, but it's real. I'm sorry to drag you into my personal hell, but there it is. This is the price you had to pay to be connected." "You never mentioned this before," she said, feeling betrayed. "Look where he gets it," Paul went on. "You heard my father. His digs about Hutmacher? It's insane. He's this close to being one of those guys who drive around in a van with a megaphone." "No, he's not. He did say I was a doctor. That was something. Remember at the restaurant?" "Well, you are. Everybody knows." "To be healthy, I have to get rid of this baggage," he admitted. "It's like a scar," she offered to cocoon the matter. "It's worse than a scar. I'm practically crippled." "Everybody has sore spots," she whispered. "Yeah. Well, thank you for allowing me to have scars and sore spots." She said, biting her arm. Higher up, there was more flesh. It would have been very helpful if Evelyn could have been honest with herself at this point. If she had been able to admit that scars and sore spots terrified her, that she'd been helplessly driven by someone's scars and sore spots all her life, bleeding like a lamb as the scars and sore spots nipped at her heels, sending her willy-nilly in directions she didn't need to go, and that she'd wasted so much precious time. In the future, she really, really didn't want to be chased by any more scars and sore sore spots. But this she had yet to grasp. Later she found herself catching her breath in the hallway, gazing at a mustachioed Norseman. It's a picture of Thorsten. Why are you always looking at him? Paul said irritably. It was here before Veblen's portrait that she came when she needed to find her best self, to remind herself there were many ways to achieve one's ideals, not just the conventional ones. He makes me feel good, Veblen said. This appeared to further unsettle him, which she rather enjoyed, a cool slap on the buttock of assumption. He plumped down on the edge of the bed, kicked off his shoes and socks, his shoulders sagged, and his hair stuck out in spikes. Wait a minute, she loved him. She didn't want to be mad about his attitude about his brother, or make him jealous of Thorsten Veblen. You make me feel better, she said quickly. Now Paul pulled the covers up around his chin. You know they used to be nudists, don't you, he said. Who? My family. Everybody knows. No, you never mentioned that. She had noticed an endearing pattern whenever Paul felt guilty or in need of affection. He'd tell her a painful story about his past. Oh yeah, when I was in about 5th grade for about a year, I'm telling you I'm lucky I still have normal sexual feelings for women or anybody for that matter. Yeah. Well, you're in 5th grade and suddenly you start seeing your mother naked all the time and your dad too and your older brother sitting cross-legged on the floor, walking around, leaning over, reaching for things in cupboards. And grotesque. She nodded in earnest sympathy. How many times had she borne witness to her naked mother running to the bedroom after a shower with a towel pressed to her front? But repeated viewings of her mother's unclad emotions had been way worse and had led Veblen to fear depressives. Back then she'd run for cover outside where she would help frightened grasshoppers escape into the ravine in danger of her mother's shears. For when she was in a bad mood and even when she was in a good mood, Melody liked to cut them down and cut them cleanly in half, which made Veblen scream. She'd pretend she was part of the resistance during World War II, helping grasshopper comrades escape across the border. So, that's why you think the squirrels are horrible, she asked suddenly. Why? Because they're nude? He chuckled. That's it, exactly. She kissed him and loved him intensely then, as she always did when they laughed about something together. Drifting to sleep, Veblen reflected on how she was sensitive to jealousy and hypervigilant over situations that created it, though in recent years she'd taken to exploring how much jealousy a normal person could stand in comparison to her mother. The rigor of her training had sharpened a fine etiquette scarcely necessary with others. Take a classic example of her emotional training. Veblen had once slept over at her friend Joni's house. Veblen's mother didn't like Joni for a number of reasons, including her manners, her dress, her religion, which was practiced on Sundays in a group setting, and her family. Joni's mother had been a sorority girl at Chico State, had married a contractor, and though not wealthy, they had built a phony castle of a house. Joni's mother curled her hair every day before Joni's father came home. At the sleepover, she had the girls make a salad for dinner and showed them how to peel a cucumber, then run a fat tiny fork down the side of it so that when it was sliced, it looked scalloped. And when Veblen came home from the sleepover and was next helping her mother make a salad, she excitedly displayed the new trick. To her dismay, her mother began to cry and ran out of the kitchen, saying how this was a special thing she'd wanted to teach Veblen herself. And if Joni's mother was such a domestic superstar that maybe Veblen would rather live there. Linus was drinking a martini and eating peanuts in the kitchen. Veblen said, I don't understand why she's mad. Linus rattled the ice in his martini glass and took a sufficient swallow. Your mother cares about you very much, dear, and probably feels she's lost an opportunity to teach you something. Why don't you go in the bedroom and give her a pat, make her feel better? Veblen dried her hands on the dish towel. Heading for the bedroom, she tightened her core muscles, assessing what would be needed for peace. Mom, she whispered. It was dark in the bedroom. What is it? She forayed into the dark, leaned over the bed. Mom, sorry you couldn't show me how to decorate cucumbers. Her mother grunted from under the covers. You showed me how to make radishes look like roses, remember? Yes, I did, said her mother, and she opened the covers to allow Veblen in for a cuddle. Her mother hugged her to her chest. Does that woman still wear those curlers around the house? Yes, Veblen said, seeing her way out. Big pink ones that look like shrimp. Talk about her glory days at Chico State. Yeah, but one out. She's a hollow shell living in the past. Her mother laughed. That's what I always thought. A very superficial woman, no interests outside the home. No interests at all, Biblin exclaimed, and her mother tickled her, and they rejoined Linus in the kitchen, and when her mother turned her back for a second, Linus gave her a grateful nod and tossed down a funnel of peanuts from his palm. What about a lot of work it'll all been, she thought. Still was. Paul wasn't going to make her work that hard. He'd better not, she thought.